G'day guys, welcome to another episode of SidekickTV. Today we're with Clive Antony from Antony and Mates Digital Content and Advisory. Yeah. So, but today we're not talking about marketing as such in our businesses. We're actually talking about politics and business. Okay, it can be quite a polarizing subject, and I know a lot of people don't actually put a strong flavour of their political persuasions into their day-to-day business. But today I wanted to discuss with Clive whether that's an opportunity. So Clive, welcome.
Thank you.
I suppose the first thing that would be valuable to our viewers today is going to be, can you tell us a bit about how you intertwine politics and business?
Yeah, I think we've been really lucky in the way that it's kind of evolved out of the work that we've done for our clients. So, you know, we're pretty fortunate to work with organisations and sectors that require talking to government, not necessarily lobbying for any particular thing or anything like that, but there's a government relations aspect to it. And, you know, when I started Antony and Mates, we very much were not a government lobby agency. We're still not, but it was quite cool to engage with people who are engaging with ministers, engaging with people from departments and ministries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think when that happened, we had a natural sort of evolution of all of us in the office actually talking about our politics. And you know, for me, it was really important. Obviously, I love politics, particularly New Zealand politics. I've got a huge passion for it. I've got a podcast that is called Political Musings, which is about, you know, politics in New Zealand. And so for me, I was super conscious as the director here to ensure that when we do talk about politics in our office, it was a really safe environment to do so, not a place where it's, you know, my politics is something that's going to be sort of just shoved down people's throat. It was a place where we actually talk really openly about it. And and we've all got very diverse thoughts about what we believe our politics are in the office, and it's cool that we can share that quite openly. But also when we do talk about you know, for example, if we're helping a client and they're engaging and there's a particular a law that's kind of affecting them doing something, it's really cool to have that diversity of thought around the table and just talk about different perspectives of how people see it. So I think it's all about the conditions and the culture you can create in your business about how to engage politics, because it should be a thing that we should be able to openly talk about.
And I agree entirely that it would be very easy, wouldn't it, if you have strong political views, that actually you don't create a safe environment to speak about that in the office, you know. And but how do you counter that? You know, what's the kind of respectful starting point that you come from, so everyone can share a voice?
Yeah, I think when you're coming from a position of, I guess, in a business, a position of power, obviously being in charge, being the founder of the place, actually just being a listening ear and just actually understanding and have that willingness to understand and learn the other person's point of view and perspective. So there's definitely that for me that I take in quite seriously first, and also understanding that, you know, people enter political conversations at different times in lives. For me, it's something that I've grown up with, but other people in our agency here, it's something they just did while they're at uni, or now they're out of uni. It's particularly election year this year. Now they've got their ears up. I go, okay, yeah, I need to actually start looking around. So a lot of it comes back to me just actually listening. And, you know, they might put an opinion out there, and I'm like, cool, awesome. Like, I understand that context, why you think that way now, and actually really celebrate and enjoy that. I think that's super important.
And it will often as well, I find it with speaking with people that support, say, various parties, they'll bring a fresh perspective to something, won't they? So, you know, if you're, and I think it's so dangerous now that we're super conditioned by, when we're on Facebook, if you like the red pages or green pages or blue, it's almost like that's all you see. So there actually isn't a second opinion coming from and I think especially as an employer of young people, as you are, I suppose, you know, I am certainly locally, actually 8 hours a day, you want to be able to talk about politics in a safe environment, don't you? You know, you spend a lot of your time, and everyone's got a decision to make next month. So we want it to be a well-formed, well-rounded decision.
And I think we're really lucky in New Zealand that Well, even though there are some really extreme ideas out there, they're quite in the fringe and not necessarily within the mainstream parties. And it's not like, there's nations overseas where it can be quite polarizing. There might be just a two-party system. We're lucky here because we've got MMPs, so there's various different parties around. And so we should be able to have those conversations. And one thing that actually, so Mordecai was on my podcast recently, and one thing we actually discussed there was, I certainly believe in New Zealand, when you look at political differences, it's actually a difference of priority as opposed to values. So you take one party and maybe they're prioritising these particular issues for this coming up election. That doesn't mean that they don't actually appreciate the values of the other side. They do, it's just different on the priority scale. And I think that's definitely something in New Zealand that we should be happy about, because there's a lot of things that I look across the board at all the parties and think, actually, these are really good ideas. But at the moment, in the context of me right now, in the context of someone else right now, they are going to go for this particular party because they're prioritising that value set.
Yeah, you're so right. It's not like in, you look at lots of European nations where they will have a fairly far right party in the midst somewhere, where actually they are actively wanting to marginalise a part of society. New Zealand doesn't have that at all. No. It's not values based, it's priorities based. Fantastic. And what about, we've spoken about it from internally, looking at your business, looking at your team and supporting them. But what about externally? I mean, it's one fear of mine is that, if you go out there and you get really active in your marketing or whatever it is, or there's an obvious message around your political views, that, hey, half the country won't share them. So, and as a salesman, I need to be everybody's best friend. What would be some thoughts or learnings or experiences you could share on that yourself?
I think it's very much it's a thing of relationship, right? It's not something that, because, politics is something I've got an interest in. At the end of the day, our commitment as us to an agency is to our clients and making sure we do the best professional service for them, right? And what I've found is over time, and the reason why the word mates is in our name is because we want to create those relationships with our clients. And so when you become a friend with someone, you get to actually understand a little bit more about them, and then you can start having chat about politics and all that sort of stuff. And I've just found it just sort of happens quite easily. It sort of just happens quite naturally. I don't know, sometimes it's not even me that brings it up. It's just, we're just sort of talking about, you see the news yesterday. I think COVID's been interesting because, for many reasons, but from like a current affairs perspective, it's something that people are always talking about. And so when you start talking about, lockdown or travel bubbles or masks or whatever it is, it actually is a political conversation. And so that's where you start sort of unraveling and start having those conversations about that. So with sort of external clients and sort of people that we talk to, it's not something I push out there, but it's something I'm not afraid to have a conversation with once, there's actually mutual respect. And I think that's the important bit, isn't it, that mutual respect part.
Absolutely. And look, I could say that it's quite funny. I've got friends on Facebook, and I've got a client friend, and he's commented a couple of times if I've posted something that he feels could be quite insightful. The backhanded compliment will come back of that's quite insightful for a national voter. But there's there is mutual respect there. I've also had the pleasure of hosting James Shaw once for a luncheon at the Canterbury Club. To hear his fantastic ideas on business and sustainability and economics. So you actually do get a broad stroke view here, don't you? Cross party.
And that's the thing. I'm really passionate about those cross party conversations. I remember at the end of last election, because obviously Winston Peters got the opportunity to choose who he wanted to go for. But then I thought that there was a small chance that National and the Greens might be able to do something together. And so in my sort of energy, I just chucked up a petition online, and I said, Bill English, James Hall, just at least have a chat, please. I know Kiwis are keen for that conversation. And I just put it up there, I had a mate who was like, I'll sign it. And I was like, I'll sign it. It's about 15,000 signatures in the end.
Wow.
Obviously, it came to nothing, but you know, it's just about actually just being brave to be like, just have conversations.
What an engagement though as well. I mean, to get 15,000 people connected on our discussion that you posted up.
It was pretty weird. And then last year I ran for council in Christchurch Central, and the first thing I did is I got in touch with Chloe Swarbrick, who's a Green MP.
Right.
And then I said to her, look, I'm doing this council thing, but the first thing that's really important to me is I want to show that so many people from different parties and stuff can have a chat. So we had myself, and I was running with an outfit called Independent Citizens, Chloe from the Green Party, who was an MP at the time, and then Ecan Councillor Lan, who was running with the People's Choice. So we had 3 different people, 3 different types of politics from 3 different perspectives, all just having a beer and doing a Q&A at a local pub.
Great.
And you know, it's that type, and it was an awesome experience. And you know, we learn a whole lot from each other, and just by that whole vibe of just seeing 3 people up there willing to have a conversation and actually really enjoying yourselves.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that just needs to be just constantly happening.
Yeah. And then I also see as well that you know, some of the work you do is with National Party candidates as well. So, and that presumably is through your network. But actually, I hadn't realised that you were representing independent party. I thought it was national.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to its relationships. So, for example, for me, Dale Stevens is the National Party candidate for Christchurch Central, and he's someone that I met last year and just genuinely really inspired by him. I think he's a great guy. Also happened to go to his gym as well, so probably see him every now and again, which is handy. But you know, look, for me, as particularly a young person who enjoys politics, I think it'd be really bad of me not to support people and help out people who I think should be representing us in Parliament. Yeah. And someone like him, who, you know, a guy who just, you know, he's a Māori dude, he's got successful business acumen and all that sort of stuff, things and values that I really treasure. I think it'd be a really bad citizen of me not to participate, especially when I really enjoy it. So, it just comes down to relationships. So,
so what advice would you be giving business owners, you know, to voice how they feel or not? You know, I think there's a lot of people that probably feel like they are censoring themselves to a degree. There's a bit of a fear of saying something unpopular. What would your advice be to people like that?
Start small, start in your friend group, because you'll be surprised. I was certainly surprised about the diversity in my group of friends. People that, you know, I hang out with every week. And you start asking those small questions like, hey, you know, what do you think about that? And they go, oh, this way. I'm like, really? Sweet. Or, okay, but you know, that doesn't matter. It's just about actually, I think when we start actually just being really open about what our beliefs are and our values are, it's just going to create richer conversations and richer relationships. And I think politics is a really just base level of actually understanding people inside and out.
I think as well, if we always make sure that the language we're using, the examples that we're pulling from aren't divisive. You and I were talking about that recently, weren't we? And I don't know if you want to share the story, but you know, certain ministers, and generally they're the blue ones, are either criticised for being homophobic or their beliefs around the equal rights marriage bill and things, and you said that you know, certainly you found
that's right. So I mean, it's interesting because I've got a background. When I went to uni, I was quite heavily involved in musical theatre, and obviously, you know, our musical theatre community is incredibly liberal, which is awesome, and so many heaps of people do that. And I think what I said, I've been more gay people in the National Party than I have done musical theatre, like, and without a word of lie. Like, it's just crazy. So but you know, it's just actually about just having those conversations.
And because the narrative is actually quite divisive, and you'd be led to believe the entire opposite. And then the other thing is, I think for our generation anyway, also I realise we probably span 2 generations.
No way, Rick. Don't believe that for a moment.
But it's actually that stuff that doesn't concern us anyway, because I don't think we're at all bothered by someone's orientation.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, you know, I love people for who they are and the relationship I have with them, And that's the thing. I think the more it comes down to richness of relationship. I really, really believe that the more we can just be open and honest and actually understanding people's context and their why, we're going to get a richer relationship with people, which leads to richer societies and richer communities.
Yeah. Far more inclusive, regardless of what.
And obviously, there's some things out there that, like particularly like we look to the States, and one thing for me is like a person of colour in New Zealand. Black Lives Matter was in a way really, really awesome for a lot of first generation Indians like myself. To actually start having just more honest conversations with like, particularly with my cousins and stuff like that as well. We all grew up around here, and then we kind of reflect on stuff that happened back at school and go, actually, no, that wasn't cool. Like, we should have should have acknowledged it and done something about that a bit more. So there's things out there that we definitely need to address. I'm not saying it's all rainbows and butterflies and stuff out there. So
that's it. There's still some way to go, isn't there?
There's still some way to go. But we're not going to get that far if we're not
talking about it.
Can't leave it on the road.
Alicia actually mentioned something in a previous video of ours similar to that. It's like, actually, you need to have a voice on these big topics. And again, it's that it's about being bold enough to be able to do it as well, isn't it? And within that context of, hey, I want to really discuss this so that you and I can actually bond on it rather than divide one another around it.
And I think it goes both ways. I don't think you can just look at National or Labour or Greens and ACT. You only have to look at the amount of hoardings for candidates from all parties that have been damaged and destroyed. And that's just not cool. And so that's just going to scare people from talking politics more. So if you had a Labour Party hoarding on your fence because you're really passionate about your local MP, and that's just been destroyed and been vandalised, how does it make you feel as an individual? That you're going to feel like you're targeted? The same goes for every other party as well. So it's just that divisiveness that we just can't go down that line. Just got to be more honest with each other.
Totally. I think that's a great place to end. So that's fantastic advice. Just being more honest with each other, respecting one another's views and opinions, and but making sure we're having the conversation. So, hey, Clive, thank you so much.
All good.
That was awesome.
Good fun.
So that was great fun, and it's, like I say, a bit of a topic I was shying away from. So you've definitely,
But even when we're talking now, I was still pretty challenged as well. It's a thing that. Oh crap! People want to hear what I'm saying, but no, you got to march forward with it. So if people take it in the right context, then I think they'll be fine.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll link to Clive and Mates and Co. Antony and Mates. So we'll link to that stuff in the comments on the video. Thank you so much for watching, and look forward to catching you guys next week. Cheers.